The National Urban League is a social work agency and has traditionally concerned itself with trying to improve the living and working conditions of the Negro in America. We are 59 years of age this year. We have traditionally concerned ourselves with trying to work in the best interest of this target population. Then a new program we call the New Thrust. We're trying now to move into the ghetto, into population centers, trying to help people to organize themselves to work in their own best interest.
Well, is the League political in any sense of the word?
No, it is strictly non-political in every way. We are very much concerned, however, that people do participate in the political process, but we are non-partisan completely. We have engaged in several kinds of civic education programs, encouraging people to participate in political activities, but we have no preference as far as political parties are concerned. We are very much interested in trying to help people in local communities and in rural communities, although we primarily and traditionally have been concerned with trying to help people in urban centers. That's how we got our name, Urban League. But we feel that in the late 60s and the early 70s, we ought to be trying to reach a large number of people that need our help in rural communities. So we felt that we could take our limited resources and invite representatives from some rural communities into a central place and try to plan statewide conferences to try to bring information and resources to people which otherwise would not be available to them.
Well, in what ways does the Urban League work? Do you advocate any type of demonstrations or anything like this?
Primarily, we use the true and tried professional social work technique for bringing about change. We do not picket. We're not against picketing for those who feel this is a way to achieve desired results, but it has not to be our technique for doing things.
No, this is not a movement. Because, I think when you get to terms of movement, people think about things that was in the past. I think we have bypassed the civil rights movement now. We were in a civil rights movement once before. There's no such thing now as civil rights. We learned that from Brother Malcolm X. One don't need civil rights no more. When you're automatically, you're supposed to be a so-called citizen. So one thing, we're not working in a movement of that sort, such as civil rights movement. But we're in survival. This is a survival.
Today, the United Appeal of Montgomery has reached $900,125. This is a significant achievement for the Montgomery area. This is the largest amount of money ever raised by a United Appeal campaign in the history of our city. I cannot begin to sit here and accept the accolades from you or anyone else without saying that Bob Gaddis and I simply happened to be the campaign chairman this year. We had over 2,000 volunteer workers that really got the job done. And more significant than that, too, I think, is the fact that there's sometimes 90% of the story is in the doing and 10% in the telling. And we have 29 agencies, each with their own board of directors and their committees and their volunteers and their staffs working year-round, serving people in mine and your behalf. So we say thank you to those people for supporting us, too.
Her life was marked by service, but the opportunity to still greater service was given to her by the people of Alabama. And her service as chief executive of our state was characterized by the compassion and concern that she showed for the problems of our people. Though her body was slight, her heart was large enough that her love could envelop all of us. And the people of Alabama sensed this and responded to it. And so today, as governor of the state, I have the privilege of dedicating to her memory this memorial, that as our lives have been enriched by knowing her, so that all of us and the generations to come may have this memorial to remind them of her great contributions to our state and to its people whom she loves so much. And so I dedicate this memorial today to her memory.
I want to say to you and to Governor Brewer, to Governor Patterson, and Governor Folsom, and all of you members of the Eastern Star, sister and brethren of the Eastern Star, and all of you friends of our family, that we are grateful to you for making it possible to memorialize the governor in this fashion. And I do speak on behalf of our family when we say that we are deeply grateful to all of you. And I am speaking for them at this moment. As you know, she loved you and she loved the people of our state.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we will...
Well, I don't have one to give you right now, so go ahead and read to that one. 2 out of 3. It's the star that we read yesterday. See the clouds already. All right, Evelyn. That's right. That's right. All right, Don.
Why did it have to be made out of plastic? There's a long space.
What's the name of this, Tommy?
The atomic spaceship.
All right. You've been up in an airplane. Raise your hands. Let's see. Did you see the clouds out? All right.
They're funny.
They do, don't they? They look like what? Fluffy
Pillars.
pillows or egg whites or something like that. All right. The tall building. You'd rather not look down because it's kind of frightening. Well, that's the way he felt. Exactly like.
Exactly right.
The years, what is the cause of this?
Was expressed, we could not anticipate the enrollment, and because the it is so serious here now that we have been allowed to freeze the ones that we have on roll and are not taking any more into the classroom at the present time because the teachers are overloaded. Now, the combinations we have kept small, and we have not placed more pupils in those because each teacher has 2 grades to work with within a room, so they have been kept very small.
How effective is the program working here at Forest Avenue School?
Well, the teachers do a good job, and the best they can. The combination grades, I think, have worked well. They have had small groups to work with, but the single grades, the teachers have a hard time, in fact it's impossible, to work very well with each individual child. In an elementary school in particular, a teacher needs to understand each child's problems and work with that particular child. We're going to have another teacher. almost any school that's in an older neighborhood. A neighborhood is new and there are young people living there. They have families and children. And then when those children grow up and move away, almost every school.
The big question, I think, the big questions, there are several of them, are who will rise to the challenge? Who has the guts to do what has to be done? If you'll pardon me for using these phrases which are uncomfortable and somehow obscene to you, but this is where it is, and I have to tell it like it is. And you know what I mean. Because it takes guts. You can call it courage, and all these other euphemisms. Who among you has the guts to stand up and demand that the Negro principle does not become the vanishing breed in this state today? Because that's what's happening. Not only this state, but every state across the South. We are losing them. Now, why isn't somebody asking the question, why? Who will provide the kind of leadership called for as schools reach new and more difficult levels and degrees of desegregation or of integration of both faculty and students? As schools reach new peaks of size, of complexity, of sophistication and quality. As parents and students and teachers demand ever-increasing involvement in educational administration.
Well, it put me to sleep night before last, and last night I was out, so I only got to see Chet say goodnight to David. But I haven't seen any effect. The candidates are talking more and more like Senator Goldwater talked in '64, I think. Well, really and frankly, they're talking more and more like Governor Wallace talks all the time. It's obvious that he's had a tremendous impact on these people and that their actions are designed to try to make inroads into his strength. Not only, I think, in the South, but all over the country. It seems to me that the American people, though, are not going to pay so much attention to what these candidates say as to their record of performance in years gone by. And if that's the case, I don't think they'll have any impact or effect at all on his candidacy, nor his support with the people. In fact, I think their efforts underscore his strength. And when they underscore his strength in this manner, it encourages people who are supporting him to be more active in his behalf because they realize that he does have a chance to be elected president.
Richard Nixon indicated last week, or rather this week, prior to his nomination as the GOP presidential candidate, that he would lean heavily toward states' rights, and some of his aides indicated that he would reverse some of the Supreme Court rulings. How do you feel about this?
Well, I don't, that shows what the Republican Party, Mr. Nixon, have been often said, you cannot sort of tell how they stand. It was the Eisenhower-Nixon administration that sent troops to Arkansas. It was the Chief Justice Warren, appointed in that administration, that took our schools away from us. When he was in Alabama in 1966, he was asked, Mr. Nixon was, do you favor the 64 and 65 Johnson Civil Rights Acts that had been used to take over our schools and other institutions? And he said yes. And when he joined to pass this property tax on our homes, then that makes him and this present administration all the same. So he did say, I believe, in one of the news articles that they were not going to jam anything down the throats of the Southerners. Well, he is correct about that. There's nothing left to jam down our throats. They have jammed enough down our throats that we're sick up to here. And he had a part in doing it, along with the National Republican Party. Now they come along here and begin to see that people are upset about it, and they begin to talk out of both sides of their mouths, and that's not going to fool the people of not only our region, but the country.
A majority of the educators from whom we've heard have supported our position on it.
Could this be done on a local option basis? Say one county wanted to retain tenure.
It has been done in Alabama. Several counties do not now have teacher tenure. Montgomery County is a prime example of a county which does not have teacher tenure, and of course has one of the outstanding school systems of the 118 in our state. Some other counties do not have it. One a local act was struck down in court, a local act abolishing tenure. That was done on the basis that it seemed to have some racial connotations, I believe.
But it could be handled on a local basis.
It could be, I think.
That is retaining tenure or
abolishing?
Mm-hmm.
The Wilcox Act was struck down. I believe 6 other counties have abolished tenure by local legislation. The whole theory behind the abolition of tenure is to recognize teaching as a profession. And this is the only profession I know of that requires or seeks or looks for job security. It seems to me that it's repugnant to professional status. I can't conceive of the inquiring mind and the scholastic attitude and the deep intellectual search that goes on in the mind of a professional teacher, an educator, being encumbered by something like tenure, a job status, or something of this nature.
We're going to carry Maryland. That's one of our strong states. And I don't think it makes any difference who they nominate, either Republican or Democratic parties. The people are fed up to hear with what both of them have done to our institutions. So, in my judgment, it doesn't make any difference.
Do you feel that Mr. Nixon made a wise choice on a running mate?
I don't think it made any difference who they chose in the first place. I think that insofar as the outcome of the election is concerned, that the Republican Party must run on its record, and regardless of who they nominated, that record is there, and that record is like the Democratic Party record. It has destroyed local institutions, taken over our schools, our hospitals, the seniority and apprenticeship list of our unions. Both parties joined together, including Mr. Nixon and Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Humphrey, that pushed through the Congress a bill that, when it goes into effect in this state and other states, would put you in jail without a trial by jury in a federal court if you didn't see fit to sell your home, your own home, or lease it to somebody that the judge or some bureau thought you ought to sell or lease it to. And I think this record of the Republican Party is going to help bring its defeat, along with the National Democratic Party also, because they're still Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Well, course, he has lost, but I think that the image that both parties have now, including the Republican Party, is that you helped get us into this mess. And I remember that he said, in talking to some Southern delegations the other day, he was not going to jam anything down Southerners' throats. Well, he may be correct on that, because the Republican Party and the administrations that he was connected with and the Democrats have jammed everything down our throats that can be jammed. We're fed up to here with the leadership and activities of both of these parties, and that's the reason that they're going to have to answer in November.
It is true that you are perplexed about many of the problems you see around you on the national, state, and local level. Well, so am I. I wish, just as you, for an end to the war in Vietnam. And I find that our people in Alabama are puzzled over what is apparently a no-win policy in Southeast Asia. We do not favor unilateral withdrawal, but we are unable to understand the failure of our national leaders to use our tremendous weaponry and manpower to bring this conflict to a speedy and successful conclusion. We need to free the hundreds and thousands of our young men in the armed forces there for gainful contributions to our unsettled domestic problems.